Okay, so the next step in the process would be to hire an agent to represent you in renting out your property. So, how do you go about doing that? Well, I would look for agents who have been in the market a while, not somebody who's new, perhaps somebody who's been in the market at least over 10 years, who has experience in various kinds of rental markets, whether that's like a very strong tenants market and a very strong landlords market. I personally have been in real estate over 20 years, so I've seen various different kinds of markets here in the area. I've been to the financial crisis. I've seen that market, COVID, very hot rental market. So it's good to hire somebody who has experience, who has seen multiple markets. Also, you want to hire somebody who has market knowledge on the particular property that you're style of a property that you're looking to rent out, for example, or in the location that you have your property. Not all agents are experts at everything. Some are more specialist in a certain kind of property, for example, like a waterfront property, or maybe in a multifamily walk-up property, or in a certain town in the county. Not every agent covers all markets, so it's good to do your research and see who is the expert for your particular neighborhood or your particular style of property that you're looking to rent out. Just discussing the rental market. One thing to think about is, when do you want your apartment to be rented? Meaning, when will the new tenant, occupy the property? So, for example, if you're thinking you want to rent out your apartment or your home starting March 1st, well, is that a good time of year to start renting it? When will tenants looking in March start to look? So these are all things to consider as far as how much advance marketing time should the property be on the market. So the general rule of thumb is that tenants tend to look for properties for their occupancy date that they desire 45 to 60 days prior to that date. So if you're looking to rent out an apartment starting March 1st, tenants who are looking for a March rental tend to start looking January 1st to February 1st, somewhere in that range. So 45 to 60 days prior to the occupancy date, people tend to start looking. Now, there are tenants who will look up until, into February and into March. But my advice would be to always start the process as early as you can. If your property is currently rented out, I would check the notice of renewal on the lease form to see how much advance notice you have to give your tenant to start showing the property if they're going to be moving out and somebody else you want to market to for moving in. So, for example, if your tenant is to be given 60 days notice, I would start that process of showing that property 60 days prior to them leaving, because it just gives you more time to find a tenant that you will accept. So that's one thing to consider, is how much advance notice you are to when do you want to put the property in the market, and how much advance notice how much in advance do you want to start showing that property. The other thing to consider is the seasonality of rentals. The rental market moves quickly. It's very different from the sales market, and it tends to turn over every 2 weeks, meaning that you have properties entering the market on the 1st and the 15th of the month, depending on how much notice the tenants have to give their landlords that they're leaving. So every 2 weeks, you tend to have a burst of new inventory coming to the market. Whereas in the sales market, it's more sporadic. In the rental market, it's the 1st of the month, you see a lot more listings come up, or that first week, and then mid-month, you see more things come up. The seasonality you should consider the seasonality of renting your apartment. By that, I mean certain times of the year are slower than others. Certain times of the year are more active than others, meaning there are more tenants out there looking. So, for example, the slowest periods of the year to find a tenant would be for an occupancy in February and an occupancy in August, December, and January, and sometimes into early February. Those tend to be the slowest periods of time of the year to find a tenant. Why? August is the most popular month for summer vacations. There's less people looking. And obviously December, January, we have the holiday season really starting in late November and moving into the new year. We could have a slower rental market in January if it's a very snowy winter. I have seen early January be very active, but generally speaking, December is slow, August is slow. So you should consider those dates when you're looking to either start your lease or end your lease. So some landlords will look at when, if they're signing a 1-year lease and say the lease started in October, but the tenant wants an 18-month lease, when is that lease going to end then? And will it time into a market where it will be more active? I personally, like, less people tend to move on New Year's Day, so I would kind of avoid a lease end date being December 31st or January 1st. I would try to then move it to February or March if possible. That way you avoid having an apartment that sits vacant while your tenant moved out and while you're looking for a new tenant. So these are all things to consider when you are looking to rent out an apartment. If you have any questions about this, you can reach out to me at walter@livingonthehudson.com or at 347-448-3766. Thank you.